2021. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Moving through the peak of hurricane season, time for your tropical update. And there are 3 storms to watch right now, 2 in the Atlantic, 1 in the eastern Pacific. We've got Tropical Storm Leslie, which will impact Bermuda and parts of the East Coast. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Tropical Storm Michael east of Leslie. And then we have John, which is now a tropical depression, continuing to weaken there to the west of Mexico in the eastern Pacific. Here's Tropical Storm Leslie. Now there's Bermuda. The storm is southeast of Bermuda by about 500 miles now. Maximum sustained winds at 65 miles per hour, barely moving to the north at 3 miles an hour. And the problem is there's not a lot to steer this storm in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So it's going to sit here and spin and organize and eventually strengthen before impacting Bermuda, possibly as a Category 2. Now that would be by Saturday into Sunday. Now this is the projection for the center of the storm, and whether the center of the storm is here or farther to the west, we're certainly going to have some impacts in Bermuda. High surf, the wind is going to pick up. Now just how severe those impacts are, we'll know a lot more in the coming days. The track after that tends to take this more to the north, not necessarily a direct impact on the northeast, but we will monitor New England for some impacts and the Maritimes of Canada. But we do know with such a large storm, there's going to be plenty of surf here and rip current danger across not only Florida, but we'll have to watch up into the northeast in the coming days. We also have Michael here to the east, which is weakening, and Chris, no impact to land.
And Chris, as you just saw, there's still plenty of activity in the tropics, especially in the Atlantic, but there's a change in the pattern. Hurricane specialist Brian Norcross explains.
The tropical Atlantic has been very favorable for named storms, of course, but changes look like they're in the works. According to the Global Forecast Center, we're going to see a change about the middle part of September. So here's the way it's been. High pressure in the Atlantic has been very favorably positioned and of a favorable strength to create a storm track for systems that develop over Africa to move on across and get stronger and come in the direction of the U.S. and the Caribbean islands. But a change is coming according to the long-range computer programs. The high is going to strengthen. That pushes the storm track farther south, and that becomes less favorable for systems out in the Atlantic. Probably going to take a week and a half to 2 weeks for it to get there, but that looks like the trend according to the Global Forecast Center. So here's the net of all that. The water temperature is just about average, so no big contribution plus or minus there. The wind flow may be becoming a little minus, but on average just about neutral in terms of effect. More dry air than we would normally want to have systems develop. Of course, more dry air is good for us, but that's because as the high strengthens, you get more dry air off of Africa. And the MJO, a wave that moves around the Earth and can enhance tropical development, looks like that's going to be positive. So the net, 1 negative and 1 positive, just about average for the first part to the middle of September. Now, as far as the Caribbean, again, we have a negative in terms of wind flow and a positive in terms of MJO, so about average for the Caribbean through the middle of September. In the Gulf of Mexico, though, because that storm track moves farther south, that tends to push the storms farther south, and we get unfavorable winds over the northern Gulf. And so we have a negative there in terms of wind flow, so 2 negatives and a positive, so slightly below normal activity in the Gulf of Mexico is the forecast as we move through the next couple of weeks. So the net is that about average across the Atlantic to a little below average in the Gulf, but it is moving into the prime of hurricane season, so we're probably going to have more named storms here over the next couple of weeks. That's it for now. Back to you.